Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Okay. You have now got the acquisition candidates on board because you're giving them options. Okay. And that's more or less the full circle. You know how to get through to them, but then it's a matter of life happens. Your wife or your mother-in-law, something happens in life. And even this is a strain. What do? I can only tell you what I've seen that kids do that's successful is you just got to, and it's a cheap cliche, cheap analogy, you got to keep running towards the gunfire. You heard Roberto say, no matter what happens, you just got to keep going forward. No matter what the obstacle, you just got to keep going forward. No matter what falls out of bed, you still got to keep going forward. And that I can't train you to do. It gets back to how hungry are you really? How much, do you really want to change your life financially? And I that's something you can't really measure. You can't really measure. Vis-a-vis, the average net worth of this group, you should be hungry. You should be hungry. I say that smiling, but, you should be hungry. That doesn't mean you will be hungry. It also has to do directly with your threshold for pain. There's a thing on my site, which I know you all read, Pay Price to Action. Allegedly, you want to lose weight, caloric intake reduction, more exercise. Now, I know everybody says, I got a bad thyroid. That's all horse shit. I mean, you got a bad nothing. You're a tub of shit. That's just it. When my mother died, and she never came in the castle, some of the last words out of her mouth, she says, forgive me for leaving you with fat genes. Forgive me for leaving you my fat genes. My mother wasn't fat. My mother weighed 110 pounds. My mother was 5'2". But in her mind, she was fat. And if you think you're fat, doesn't matter if you're 80 pounds, bulimia and all that stuff, you're fat. So those were my final words on her deathbed. Forgive me for leaving you with my fat genes, okay? Some of you will have it easier making these calls. Some of you will have it harder. But either way, you just got to keep making them. You heard the Viking bitch said when she was talking about the 5 acquisitions she just made, 1 broker, 4 cold calls. You heard Andrew say the same thing. But you're going to wrongfully think that even though brokers are shitbags, and even though I showed you a way to bring brokers into your fold, you're going to try to depend on the many sites that are online that show healthcare assets. Some of you have already looked at them. Some of you have already tried to buy them. The documents, contrary to the document I just showed you before we went on YouTube, the documents that business brokers give you, I won't say are meaningless. I won't say they're worthless. But they're certainly not giving you all the knowledge you need. And at the bottom of the broker's portfolio or syllabus, it says, words to the effect, these above numbers may or may not be accurate. Don't depend on them. Yet you buy businesses with them. And that's why you're asking for. And if they won't send you financials, not the financials in the business broker's brochure, the financials that are internally prepared, and normally they're QuickBook or something, which are pretty worthless anyway. QuickBook is only what you put in. But the tax returns, when you measure the tax returns against the financials, if they're not roughly the same, plus or minus 10%, next. It's not that, they're not the same. And so she's going to tell you, trying to buy her practice, well, I'll get my accountants to work on it. There's nothing to work on, sweet pea. The numbers are bogus. Why does your tax return say this and your the broker's financials say why? What? There's no good reason. And no matter how many times you ask the question, they're not going to be able to give you a plausible reason. So why waste the time asking for a reason that's not plausible? Because you're desperate. And you got to make something happen. And the clock's ticking, and Peña is going to, is going to make fun of you. Absolutely. He's going to say that, you're as dumb as I thought you were. Absolutely. Those are all givens. But I'm going to say that about you even if you do a deal. So it doesn't really matter. You just got to keep pushing. And the thing, again, that I still am very good at, I'm not as hungry now as I used to be, okay? I'm still more hungry than most kids that come to the seminar, but I'm not as hungry because I have nothing to prove anymore. And I just know that there's always a prettier girl or a prettier deal or the deal of your life around the corner. But you got to kiss the frog, turn over the rock. You heard Roberto say it, okay? But if you don't turn over the rock, kiss the frog, you're never going to know. If you never go around the corner to see if there's a prettier girl around the corner, you're never going to know. And I'm telling you, I told you, the exercise we went to when the great salesman I used to know, he's dead now. He said, you sit in my limo and I'm going to ask girls to have sex. And then the 17th girl said, your place or mine, came into the back of the limo. And she smiled at me and said, well, I haven't done a menage a trois in a while. He asked 17 times. Now, that's why it's so hard for me to relate how, there's, I won't say little or no, but a lot less sex going on. And I understand venereal disease. I understand all that. But I don't understand why, mutually consenting adults aren't having more sex. You ask somebody my generation, they don't understand either. Yeah.
If financials don't much, so you go to the next.
You say, adios. Adios. And then they...
if they don't match tax.
If they're not close to what their tax returns say.
Or they have to explain.
No, they don't have to explain nothing. Explain it to the next idiot that might buy your company, not me. I'm not interested. Yes, sir.
What is your rebuttal if they refuse to send you the 3 years financials and tax returns?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to waste your time.
I have just two short questions.
What if only one's short and one's long?
I'm sorry, come again?
Huh? Okay, what are the questions?
Never mind, right. So in the UK, at your first board meeting, do you need a notary present?
In the UK, notaries aren't required. In other countries, they are required. But you're going to have somebody take notes. This is also in your scripts. Normally the corporate lawyer is assigned to be the corporate secretary for that board meeting. Normally, okay? And he takes notes. And then when he takes notes, then he gives you the founder notes, and you make corrections. Then you send them around to all the board members for corrections, additions, deletions, and they're normally not too much. And then you send them to the chairman. The chairperson has the final say, and then he'll make the changes or whatever. But board meeting notes, it's better to err on the short side, not the long side. And other than all votes are unanimous, that's the most important thing about the... So when you go downtown and you're a public company and the judge and the opposing lawyers are saying that, almost every one of your things that you voted through was, just by a majority, 6-5 or 6-4, you can show that your board has always been supportive and shareholders' interests have always been primary in your mind. And there's all kinds of things you say. And but you're there, in the beginning you are trying to benefit the shareholder, but you're the shareholder in the beginning. You're the major shareholder. So you can say with your hand on your heart, I've always been looking out for shareholders' interests, which is true. And then the opposing lawyer said, well, you had 82%, and, how much did you really care about the 2%? Did everybody understand what I just said? Anything else? Yes, again.
Yes. Could you please just reiterate in one or two short sentences the downside of having your internal accountant selecting the external firm?
It's his, because then the relationship's with him, not you. And so when the internal accountant buddies up with the CFO and the CEO, and they cut your head off, and you're walking down in front of them on Piccadilly, and you see them all there, scheming.
So I couldn't find it in my notes. I just wanted to read it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, again, I mean, you've heard Roberto, you've heard a bunch of people say 95% of the things you're worried about don't happen. It's really more than 95. It's probably 98. But 95, they don't happen. I mean, now some of the shit shows that you've described or potentially are worried about are because you caused them. They lose faith in you because of your lack of leadership or no leadership, or you changed your mind. In this world, you don't change your fucking mind. And gals, listen closely, because gals change their mind more than men. When you say something out your fat lips, that's concrete. That's in stone. That's by law. So the fact that you use 35,000 words and we only use 5,000 or 6,000, choose your words carefully, girls, because you can't go back and change it. Then all the jokes about women at the board level, you'll see why they make jokes about women at the board level. Sometimes because you can't keep your fucking mouth shut. And the professional, like yourself, wouldn't say, keep your fucking mouth shut. I mean, you need to, as Churchill used to say, you have to be judicious with the truth. Judicious. And but this is going to be all set up for you. It's all written down. I mean, you don't have to think about this. Just like the board agenda that I showed you earlier. You have to think about that. Just replicate it. So for the hardest thing you got to do is cut and paste, and then you fuck that up. I mean, I can't wait to see who's going to put brownstone first. I can't wait, because I know somebody in this room is. Just like, God made green apples, and I took a pee this morning, somebody's going to put brownstone. Some may even put Michael Pierce's signature block. That's who the guy was we're talking about. Don't laugh. And then I put, I don't do this, but I threaten. I'm going to put it up on social media and say, I told this moron, and I'll put your picture, but I'll blur up the face, okay? But then I'll forget and put your name, And I said, I told this idiot 81 times. And then here is, and I don't see how you sign Michael Pierce's signature block. That's what I don't get. You'll sign your name over his signature block. I go, fuck, Sally, look at this. She said, just have pity, Dan. And make sure that, they already paid us, right? Well, okay, well then just have pity. And the excuse that you give, well, I've never done this before. You've heard that already. I've never done this before. You heard Andres Miller, one of my superstars. I've never done this before. I've never set a GmbH up. I've never this, that, and the other thing. Well, nobody cares that you didn't do it before. All they know is that, you screwed up. Now, another thing. You're going to get a term sheet from the banks when they say that, term sheet. It's normally a one-page document. Term sheets, it says at the bottom, are good for 35 days, 45, 50, 60 days, that they will loan you money based on the terms in the deal. Well, they mean nothing. That's another document, means nothing. And they make mistakes on term sheets. Sometimes big mistakes for hundreds of millions of dollars, because the juniors at 3 o'clock in the morning, the big engagement guys and the big partners and the big credit officers aren't there at 3 o'clock in the morning doing your paperwork. Some intern dipshit is there and they make a mistake. And we've had, this last year we had 4 or 5 where they got down to the signing of the deal and they were $1 million short or $100,000 short because, one, they didn't read the term sheets correctly, or the term sheet that was given to you wasn't the final draft. And so you double check everything. Okay, your in-house accountant and your CFO, would go over the numbers, call the bank, and go line by line through the term sheet. Now, you're so happy you got the fucking term sheet, you know, check it. Well, you want to go line by line, you know, to make sure it's accurate. Make sure it's accurate. Everybody on these deals can make a mistake, but nobody on the deal gets hurt but you. The bank, you know, not going to fire somebody for making a mistake. The accounting firm is not going to fire, you know. The law firm certainly not. You know, the only one that gets hurt is you, and it normally costs you the deal. Now, in some parts of the world, and I know, and some of you are from these parts of the world, the closing documents are read every page. You know how I told you how you initial? You go through every page to make sure it's the same document that we all agreed upon. And we've gone back. Page 89 has been replaced. Page 111 had been replaced. And they coincidentally make the wording when they retype it on a PDF. So the same word that you need at the top of the left-hand corner. So, but they're different terms. Now, you know, some of you with non-white skin, that's the part of the world that this happens. So you're thinking you're signing the documents, but page 89 is different, page 122 is different. And just what a coincidence. Page 89 and 122 hurts you and benefits the other side. What a coincidence. And that's why the big firms go through the documents page by page with both sides sitting across from each other. And, you know, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Now you're slappy happy, so happy you're closing your first deal. You know, and so now when I went to court and Department of Justice was chasing me years ago, I had signed my name 11,000 times as CEO. 11,000 times, okay? And when they asked me, do you have recollection of, I signed a lot of documents, Your Honor, but I don't know if it was 11,000 and so you're here to tell the court that even though you signed it, they try to make you sound like a bad person. Even though you signed it, you're not sure what you signed. As the CEO of a public company, a big public, but that's not exactly how I looked at it, Your Honor. But I did sign a lot of documents, and today I can't recall every document I signed. Okay? But when I got thrown out of Great Western, they said that I had stolen a bunch of money. And so they spent more than $1 million on the audit. And there was $1,100 I couldn't account for. $1,100. These are out of hundreds of millions. I couldn't account for $1,100. And of course I stood up and I said, so we're having this multi-million-dollar trial over $1,000? So I pulled it out of my pocket. Well, I'm a couple hundred short, but here's $800 on account for the $1,100 you said I might have taken. But I didn't take any money, but they spent over $1 million on a forensic accounting of everything I signed, every penny blah, blah, blah. But I was very, very clear. I didn't spend the company money on me. I didn't spend the company money. Okay. Yes, sir, in the back.
In regards to the lawyers, just want to make that clear because I'm like rehearsing everything. So when I go to the firm, I'm just going to tell them there's not going to...
Okay. You're talking about a law firm?
Yes, the law firm. Accountant firms as well. When I go to them, basically, I'm just going to tell them basically sell them into a deal that I found that I'm going to be paying them, but after we...
No, that's exactly not how you're going to do it. You're going to follow the script.
Oh, okay, so
You have a fucking script. There's a reason why I call him pendejo. There's a fucking script that says the exact words you say.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Well, we're not leaving it to your devices. And I mean follow word for word. I mean...
The notary, it was called notary, right?
Well, some places you need a notary, some places you don't.
Is that something, somebody that I have to pay up front, or that's also somebody who...
Yes. They don't do it on a delayed fee, the notary.
All right, just making sure.
Now, is this as funny as I think it is? I mean, are you a stand-up comic? Are you a comic? I thought you were a pimp in front of a whorehouse or something. I mean... Are these questions for real? I mean, the accountants and the lawyers will do it to late fees. The accountants and lawyers will let you meet in their offices for no money. The notary you got to pay, because when he signs the document, to the extent that you use a notary, his signature cannot be contingent on payment. So whereas you can buy lawyers and judges. I'm told. I've never been involved in that kind of stuff myself, but you can buy lawyers and judges, and I've even heard that you can buy the odd jury from time to time, depending on where you're in the world. But the notaries, you got to pay up front. And if you're doing it in Mexico, they probably want it 2 weeks in advance. Yeah. Somebody else's hand was up. Okay.